All right, everyone, prepare for the next round of propaganda. Today we start off with some of the legacy media astroturfing around Kamala Harris. Now, for years, the legacy media circled wagons around Joe Biden, who, by the way, has clearly had a stroke. We'll get to his stroke speech actually later in a separate video. They astroturfed him as healthy. He's sharp as a tack, sharp as a nail. He's sharper than the rod of God itself. He blew my mind. We spoke privately for 10 minutes, and my God, I couldn't imagine how coherent he was. Well, of course, in public, he's shambling around and shit like that. Again, he has definitely had a stroke. Myself and Loomer both predicted that this was the case before it became painfully obvious. So I think we get kudos for that. Kamala Harris is being astroturfed as exciting. She's invigorating the campaign. And by the way, she's more coherent than Joe Biden. Sometimes, I mean, she didn't have a transient ischemic attack lately, so that's always helpful. Where's the excitement, though? I mean, Kamala Harris has been almost an absentee vice president. By the way, she has secured the nomination. She's got the delegates for that already. Not a huge surprise on that part. Where's the excitement? The problem is that when she makes speeches, okay, she's more coherent than Joe, so she can finish a sentence. That's good. Again, she doesn't shamble. She is capable of walking like a normal adult. That's good too, optically speaking. Why then in polls does she match up about the same as Joe Biden or a little bit worse against Donald Trump? And where's the excitement? Because I'm not seeing it. The idea is, well, she's exotic because she's black and female. And oh my God, we're going to have the first black female president. Isn't this exciting? No, it's not exciting. I want to hear actual policies. The problem is the policies are basically the same as the Biden admin's policies. The economic policy would arguably be worse. I think that this country will hit a great recession again if we re-elect the ticket with Kamala and whoever she chooses as her blundering running mate, presumably an older white gentleman. Probably not Buttigieg because that would be a double id poll ticket. We talked on the quartering yesterday about that. I think we both are sort of on the same page. And then the problem with Shapiro is that Kamala's gobbling down the leftoid votes because of the Gaza thing, because she is not necessarily the same as Biden on that particular issue. That sounds like echo chamberism to me. Astroturfing this, I mean, keep in mind, Kamala Harris is no spring chicken herself. She's like, what, 60 or something like that. And looks older than that. She looks a little bit like a younger version of Maxine Waters, actually. She's uncharismatic. She's unlikable. People receive her even more poorly than they receive Joe Biden, even in his fucking darkest hours. So where's the excitement on this ticket? It's being astroturfed. It's like they raised a huge amount of money in the first 24 hours after the announcement was made that Biden was standing down, and Kamala stepped up and said, well, you know, you've passed the torch to me, basically. And she's got Biden's endorsement. She's got the delegates. Some of the people that didn't want Biden have climbed back aboard and said, okay, Kamala's fine. So the party mutiny is fundamentally over, after having been successful, by the way. This is still a chaos situation. Let us not forget, and never allow the public to forget, the legacy media, which is propagandizing on Kamala's behalf now and pretending that she's exciting and all of these other things, spent several years lying to the American public about Joe, number one, and is completely astroturfing things that are not even realistic, number two. The fundraising was entirely predictable because people would worry. If they're Dem partisans, what's your worry? A lot of people aren't aware of the fact that because she was on the ticket, she inherits the $90+ million in Biden's war chest. Well, they're probably thinking, oh shit, well, Trump's going to curb stomp her because she's got no money. So quick, I better pony up another $19.99 per month or something like that. They were conned by the Kamala ticket more than anything else. They felt afraid. And also, you know, you're going to get a lot of large donors climbing back aboard. Because they're like, oh, thankfully, now the candidate is just a psycho, not a dementia patient. Somehow, some of them think that that's a positive change, by the way. I don't know. If it weren't for Biden stroking out, I think he'd still be running. He quite clearly had a stroke. Again, we'll talk about that separately, so I won't address it further. We'll make a whole video about that. Yeah, she's charismatic, a bright young leader, and stuff like that. By the way, prediction, and it's probably already happening right now, but I can't go through literally every news article on every news site, so I don't know if they're already saying this. Prediction, they're going to bring age up as an issue again. Well, Biden had these health problems, and Trump is the same age as when Biden first got into office, and so Kamala's younger. It's the safer bet. Maybe something happens to Trump. Well, I mean, it already almost did. It didn't have anything to do with age. Always remind people, when that debate is inevitably made by liberal commentators, that there's a difference between age and incapacity. Biden already clearly had some physical and mental issues before he got into office. As far as we know, Trump has never had any major health crisis of any kind. There's a big difference between those two. Trump is capable of coherently speaking. Joe Biden went off the rails even with a teleprompter. These two are not equivalent. They're not the same. So that's the counterbalance to that. I'm sure they'll astroturf that too. All of a sudden, well, before age wasn't an issue. Joe is perfectly fine. All of a sudden, age will be made an issue in the campaign. And all of a sudden, the wagon circlers, they'll ignore Biden from this point forward for the most part. We'll be talking about how glorious and gracious and wonderful Kamala is. Oh, they're going to fawn over her. They don't dare to do otherwise because she's backed by the Clinton clique. Not necessarily by the Obamas, and not by certain other Democrats, which is really funny to see. The Civil War does continue. It's just the mutiny having been successful, that has now died down. The astroturfing is sheer. Kamala the beautiful. Ugh. Kamala the gracious. Kamala, first black female president. Well, I mean, she's not of African American descent mainly, but okay. The first female president of color. The colored person is the term that they would have used 30 years ago, by the way, and it would have been conceived of as being mildly derogatory. It's interesting how they appropriated the derogatory term, switched the words around, and all of a sudden it became politically correct. BIPOC. Yeah, indeed. Indonesians are the same as Ghanans, and stuff like that. Kamala's being totally astroturfed. The legacy media, and big tech too, and all these others, the party elite, they're going to try to shove Kamala Harris down the throat of the public. They're going to lie, they're going to wagon circle, and they're going to make wall after wall of propaganda in her favor. Age will become a big determining factor in the election because they are not going to let that issue go. Now that Biden's out, they're not going to stop with it. And that's the reason why Biden has disappeared from the public. They're trying to pretty him up before he comes out on camera, if he even does, because he had a fucking stroke. And it's become very evident. He might have had a series of strokes, actually. It could be he's still stroking now. I mean, I'm sure that era has ended for him unless he takes a little blue pill. But yeah, he might have had a series of transient ischemic attacks. And they're like, well, Mr. President, the stress of office is going to kill you. You will die if you continue in this role. That's probably what they told him. He's demented, so they probably couldn't otherwise convince him. They had to have a sit-down with a team of doctors or something like that to convince him to stand down. I still think he wanted to run. But we'll get to the weird phone call separately in a moment. That's about all. Peace out.